Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something kind of different. We're going to be taking a deep dive into your thoughts on memory and relationships, legacy, all that good stuff. The things that stick with us, you
Oh,
know?
this will be interesting.
Yeah. We've got this really fascinating audio recording of you just sort of musing on some pretty big questions.
I love it.
Yeah. And one of the first things that jumped out was your observation that everything's ultimately forgettable, you know? But some memories really do have more staying power than others, so what makes those memories stick around? You wondered if it was boredom, a longing for a feeling, or maybe a need to learn from those past experiences.
It's fascinating how you connect remembering with having a purpose, you know?
Right.
Like, you suggest we might hold on to certain memories because they offer valuable lessons, almost like guideposts for the future.
You also talk about this distinction between good and bad memories.
Mm-hmm.
The good ones, especially those tied to romantic interests, they seem to pop up so easily. Right? Because they evoke those happy feelings. But then there are those bad memories. Those are often tucked away, maybe even repressed. But you believe that those hold a hidden wisdom, a key to personal growth, even if they're painful to revisit.
You know, that reminds me of some of the research on emotional processing and memory.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains tend to prioritize experiences that were emotionally charged, both the positive and the negative ones,
Oh, that makes sense.
and how we frame those memories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do we see them as traumas or opportunities to learn? That can really shift their emotional weight over time.
It's almost like you can choose to focus on the lesson instead of getting stuck in the negativity.
Exactly.
But then you bring up this interesting point that even those good memories, even the really cherished ones, can turn sour.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we shouldn't take even the fondest memories completely at face value.
Right. It's a good reminder that memory isn't static.
Yeah.
You know, it's constantly being reshaped by new experiences and how we understand ourselves, and the world is always changing too.
And that idea of shifting perspectives, that leads perfectly into your thoughts on relationships. You say that platonic relationships have a certain stability, you know, because they've already reached their peak, a comfortable plateau.
Yeah, I can see that.
But romantic relationships, those are fueled by this pursuit of something more. And that often culminates in marriage, which, as you point out, comes with its own unique set of challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
You really delve into the complexities of marriage, you know,
Yeah.
noting those high divorce rates and how couples need a different kind of strength to weather that post-honeymoon phase.
Right. It's not just about the initial spark. It
Oh.
takes sustained commitment to navigate those ups and downs.
And you bring in another factor, money.
Oh, yes, money.
You argue that too much wealth can actually hinder a relationship
Interesting.
because it eliminates the need to struggle together.
License.
While poverty creates this dynamic that's just purely focused on survival.
Right.
It's that middle ground you suggest, where couples have to rely on a deeper, more intrinsic connection to truly thrive.
And that actually aligns with sociological research on economic factors and relationships. Financial stress can definitely strain a relationship, but shared financial goals and open communication can strengthen the bond between partners.
So we've got memory, we've got relationships, and then you jump to this idea of building a legacy.
Okay.
And you're convinced that a truly lasting legacy is built on transmitting ideas. You describe it like a fantastically useful virus of thought spreading through time.
I love that analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
And you emphasize those essential ingredients for a legacy that really makes an impact. Authenticity, organic growth, and avoiding the trap of relying on money alone to create a false sense of longevity. You even bring up this intriguing idea: a well-crafted tombstone with a compelling quote as a more lighthearted approach to leaving your mark on the world.
Why not?
Right. I mean, who wouldn't want their tombstone to spark a conversation?
Throughout history, there have been some really memorable epitaphs that have resonated with people for centuries.
Right, yeah. Like,
Well, Oscar Wilde's "I can resist everything except temptation" comes to mind. Or consider the simple but poignant "she did what she could" on the tombstone of a formerly enslaved woman.
wow.
It's amazing how just a few words can encapsulate a whole life or an idea.
Yeah, you're right. But you acknowledge that while a clever tombstone might be a fun way to spark a thought, it's probably not the most impactful way to ensure your ideas have a lasting impact.
True legacy is about the ripple effect of your actions and the ideas you inspire in others. You know? It's about leaving the world a little bit different, a little bit better than you found it.
And speaking of leaving a mark, you shift gears again and bring up timeless art. You've observed that this sense of timelessness often comes from introducing a truly new idea or feeling, something that was more common in early cinema when each concept felt groundbreaking.
Right.
But as time goes on, originality becomes harder and harder to achieve, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And that's a common theme in art criticism. We often view works from earlier periods as timeless, partly because we're missing the context of all the art that came before it, the art that influenced its creation.
And then you raise this fascinating point. Newer generations might perceive older works as timeless simply because they haven't been exposed to all their predecessors.
Right.
It's like timelessness can be subjective.
Absolutely.
Influenced by our generation and cultural background.
That's a really perceptive observation.
Right.
It challenges us to think about how artistic movements and cultural trends shape our perception of what makes a work timeless. What resonates with one generation might not have the same impact on another.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's funny how you connect this idea of timeless art to something as mundane as those pesky gnats.
Gnats.
Those little gnats that reappear in your home every year, no matter how hard you try to get rid of them.
Oh, yeah, I know the ones.
You use this really vivid anecdote to illustrate this concept of life's continuity,
Yeah.
Its persistence.
It does kind of make you think about those larger ecological cycles that are always unfolding around us, birth, death, regeneration, the gnats in their own way. They remind us of nature's incredible ability to renew itself.
It makes you realize that we're all just part of something much bigger than ourselves.
We are.
These intricate webs of life that connect us all.
That's true.
And speaking of connections, your reflections take a really interesting turn when you start talking about childhood experiences.
Okay.
You share this really insightful observation that your childhood, particularly the negative aspects, shaped you more by defining what you don't want to become.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like witnessing bad behavior, for instance. That sparked empathy within you, a desire to be kinder to others.
That makes sense.
It
speaks to the power of those negative experiences to shape our values and motivations. Psychologically, we're always observing and internalizing the behaviors of those around us, especially during childhood.
Yeah.
And sometimes those negative examples can leave the most lasting impression.
It's like you're drawing from the negative space of your childhood, using those experiences to define the positive aspects of who you are today.
That's a brilliant connection. Just like in art, where negative space defines the form and creates balance, sometimes it's the absence of something, the lack of kindness, the experience of pain, that helps us clarify what we truly value.
So from the impact of personal experiences, your thoughts shift to a broader perspective, exploring this idea of history repeating itself.
Yeah.
And you identify two major culprits behind this recurring pattern: lack of education and the corrupting influence of money.
It is a pattern we see over and over again throughout history. Ignorance and greed fueling conflict and societal harm. Wars fought over resources, economic systems that just perpetuate inequality. The patterns are there.
And you seem particularly concerned about the dangers of excessive wealth,
Yes.
arguing that it can lead to a loss of individuality and the propagation of harmful ideas, especially when those with wealth use it to control others.
The imbalance of power that wealth can create is dangerous. When wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few, it can undermine democratic principles and create systems that benefit a select elite at the expense of everyone else.
It's like a cautionary tale that keeps playing out throughout history. Money can be a tool for good, but when it becomes the driving force behind decisions, it can distort perceptions and lead to some really bad consequences. You even touch on the idea that people can become drones for those in power, sacrificing their own values and critical thinking for financial gain.
Right. When money is the primary motivator, people are less likely to challenge the status quo or stand up for what they believe in.
So then you offer a potential antidote to these challenges, prioritizing education.
Education is so important.
Yeah. You argue that equipping people with knowledge and critical thinking skills can help them discern valuable ideas from fleeting trends, especially those fueled by money and deceptive marketing.
It's about empowering people to think for themselves, to question assumptions, to evaluate evidence. It's crucial in a world that's saturated with information.
You even express this concern that older generations, maybe because of ingrained beliefs or just a reliance on traditional sources of information, might be more susceptible to manipulation.
It's interesting to think about how different generations process information. Older generations might be more inclined to trust established institutions, while younger generations might be more skeptical of authority and more likely to seek out diverse perspectives online.
It's like we need more dialogue between the generations
Right.
to understand each other's perspectives.
Absolutely.
And despite all these challenges, you end on a note of optimism.
I try to be an optimist.
You suggest that technology, if used wisely, has the potential to break free from these cyclical patterns and contribute to a more just and equitable world.
Oh, it is access to information, connecting with people from all walks of life. Having the tools to organize and mobilize technology has incredible potential.
And that hope really comes through in your final reflections. You believe that by embracing education, by really nurturing those critical thinking skills, we can empower future generations to create a world that's less susceptible to those recurring patterns of ignorance and greed, a world where knowledge and compassion are at the forefront.
It's a vision worth striving for, I think.
It is.
A world where we learn from the past and build a better future, where everyone's voice is heard, and we use our collective wisdom to guide our choices.
It's been amazing unpacking all these ideas with you today. We've gone on this incredible journey through your thoughts, connecting your own personal experiences to these larger questions about society and philosophy.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has. We've explored the power of memory, the dynamics of relationships, the idea of leaving a legacy, and how important it is to stay informed and engaged with the world around us.
You have a way of weaving these seemingly different ideas together, drawing those parallels between your own personal experiences and these universal truths.
Well, thank you.
It's really insightful.
I appreciate that. So if we had to distill one key takeaway from all of this, it would be this: stay curious, stay engaged, and keep asking those big questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's in those moments of questioning. When we grapple with these complex ideas, that's how we grow. That's how we evolve as individuals and as a society.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought-provoking question for you to ponder. If you could leave just one idea as your legacy, something that would resonate across generations, what would it be? And how would you ensure it had a lasting impact on the world?
That's a really powerful question. It makes you think about what really matters, what kind of world we want to leave behind.
It's been an absolute pleasure exploring your thoughts with you today. We hope this deep dive has sparked some new ideas for you and inspired you to keep exploring these big questions that shape our lives.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
And to all of you listening out there, thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep diving deep.